Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here today to do my Friday Reads video where I wrap up the week in reading, talk about any bookish things that have happened, what I've been reading, and all of that fun stuff. We'll get to the Friday Reads portion of this video a little bit further along. I did finish a book. I have made some progress into others. We'll talk about it. Progress was a little bit slow this week. Work was really busy. But the other thing that's been going on is I mentioned that I had COVID in January. I haven't really talked about this here, but I have had some kind of long-standing symptoms that came out of that. I get really tired and winded a lot, which I didn't notice in February, but as soon as it started creeping towards spring in March, I did start to notice that when we got outside and took the dogs for a walk, I would just get winded really easily. I get winded just coming up the stairs in the house a lot of the time, and hopefully that's something that's going to be getting better over time. But the other thing is, I've been getting headaches a lot. I've basically had a headache since January, and I get migraines, so I'm used to it. I'm used to just trying to muddle through with a headache. But the thing about these headaches is that they're not migraines, and nothing I've been doing has helped get rid of them. So reading was slow this week, and part of why it was slow is that I've been really plagued by headaches this week, and they knocked me down pretty hard on Wednesday in particular. On Wednesday, I couldn't even work. I had to tell my boss I needed to go lie down, and missed most of the day at work just lying down. The good news is I talked to the doctor I go to, and she thinks she has a plan for something that will help. That appointment will be next week, and hopefully that will get me some relief. By and large, it hasn't been too much of a problem, but this week it was a problem. So hopefully that's something that will be getting better. I did finish a book, but again, we're going to get into the actual Friday Reads portion of this video a little bit down the road. There's not too much to talk about. Before that, I want to once again mention that Independent Bookstore Day is coming on April 30th. Mark your calendars. If there is anything you would like to order to celebrate the day, please do so. I have 2 books on order at Montana Book Company. I'm actually wearing my Montana Book Company t-shirt, or one of my Montana Book Company t-shirts. They actually don't like this shirt because of the color. I like it, so I'm wearing it. Don't tell them that I'm wearing it right now. I think it works nicely as a sort of pop of color underneath the flannel in particular, but that's just me. Whatever. Anyway, I'm wearing my t-shirt. I have 2 books on order with them that I will hopefully be picking up on Independent Bookstore Day. I did break down and order Tomb of Sand. I can't remember if I included that in my last Friday Reads video, but yeah, I did order it from the UK. I got a notice that it was shipping either yesterday or the day before. It usually takes about 2 weeks from there. So I'll probably be getting it too late for my April book haul, but it is on its way. Somebody asked if I had broken down and ordered Love in the Big City. Yeah, I did. So that's another thing that'll be coming. Spoiler alert for my future book haul. Hopefully in May, my wallet will get a break. But these are all books that I'm really excited about, so that will be a good thing. And I'm really looking forward to celebrating Independent Bookstore Day, especially with the folks at Montana Book Company. And I'd love to hear where you are planning to celebrate Independent Bookstore Day. Let me know down below. The one downside is I would love to do a sort of an independent bookstore tour like we did in Colorado, but the area where I live, there aren't enough stores to really do that. So just not really all that possible, but it is what it is. Happy to celebrate with Montana Book Companies. Let me know where you will be celebrating Independent Bookstore Day in the comment section down below. I also spent some time this week working on my next Pulitzer Prize deep dive video. If you follow along, you know I finished Beloved by Toni Morrison back in February, but I didn't want to do my Pulitzer Prize deep dive on this book until I got Gone with the Wind done. I had been on a journey with Gone with the Wind. If you follow along, you know the whole story. I finally got my Gone with the Wind Pulitzer Prize deep dive posted. Everything has been going great. Thank you for the thoughtful comments and reflections on that video. I've been enjoying it. I'll put a link to that video in the description box down below. And I've finally been working on this. I haven't gotten into the thematic portion of it yet, but periodically throughout the week, I have been putting together the sort of template and a lot of the supplementary information. When I do a Pulitzer Prize deep dive, I like to do a snapshot of the year in which the book was published. I have that done. I like to talk about the book's competition for the Pulitzer Prize, so I already have the section about the other finalists for that year done, and I've talked about other books that were released that year, and I am sort of working my way into the thematic part by now talking about the story behind this book that inspired Toni Morrison to write it. So stay tuned. This should be coming soon on this channel. I was really excited because this week, The Great Pottery Throwdown Season 5, I believe, debuted on HBO Max. I am obsessed with this show. We binged the first 4 seasons after they debuted on HBO Max last year. This season has already aired in the UK, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers for it. We only watched episode 1 last night when it aired. I'm filming this on Friday. It's going to get posted on a Saturday. Time means nothing on the internet, but anyway, so on Thursday it debuted on HBO Max. We watched the first episode. We're thinking we're going to try not to binge all of the episodes. We're going to try to space them out a little bit so we can enjoy them and not just be done with them like we were with the first 4 seasons. But it's really hard because we love that show. I haven't mentioned Top Chef, but we've been enjoying the current season. I really enjoy that Top Chef has come around and adopted the Great British Bake Off method. It used to be all about drama, and I hated it. I stopped watching it for a while because it just felt like the contestants were horrible people who argued with each other, and that was where all the drama came from. And now they get nice people who are supportive of each other and are really talented at cooking. So I've been enjoying that season as well. We also started watching the Julia Child show that is also on HBO Max with David Hyde Pierce, and I think Sarah Lancashire is the actress who plays Julia Child. We've only watched 1 episode of that, and it was really interesting. And the Barack Obama documentary series on Netflix, Our Great National Parks, debuted this week, and we've watched the first episode, and that was really good as well. It's just nice to hear Obama's voice. He narrates it, and I'd recommend it. And I should mention that we have also been watching the Julia Child cooking competition that is airing on Food Network. It's been a little bit fun. The challenges on that show kind of mirror things that happened in her career. Like the very first episode, the challenge is to make the dish that she made in her very first episode of her TV show. And I've been enjoying it. So that's what I've been watching. Let's get into the actual Friday Reads portion of this video. I was really close to finishing Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead on audio when I did my last Friday Reads video. I mentioned that I had put a really big push on the audio of Great Circle because it was a really long audio and it was going to be due back and there was a really long wait for it. So I really wanted to make sure I finished it before it was returned. I did pull that off and I finished it before it was returned the day after I filmed my last Friday Reads video. Thank goodness. I really enjoyed it. I mentioned a lot about the book in my last Friday Reads video, and I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to that. So I'm just going to put a link to my last Friday Reads video down below if you'd like more about Great Circle. I will say, I had mentioned that I didn't like the modern storyline set in Hollywood as much. As the book progressed, that storyline did add a lot of color and texture and tie back into the storyline about Marion in really interesting ways. So ultimately, I did appreciate it, and I really liked the book. If you want more, I'm going to put the link to last week's Friday Reads video down below. Feel free to check that out because I just don't know how much more I have to add. I liked the book a lot, but I already talked about it a lot last week. I was almost done with it at that point. I am, at this moment, I think about 61% into the audiobook that I started after Great Circle, which is Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson, and I am really liking this book. I'm liking it more and more as the story progresses. And I'm going to put a link to an article down below because the title is obviously Black Cake, which points you toward this recipe that is discussed frequently in the book. And I really like the way that is done and handled. It reminds me a lot of the way pound cake is used in Daniel Black's book, Don't Cry For Me. Because in the beginning of the book, the protagonist makes a pound cake with his grandmother. And it's this really tender and sweet moment, especially considering that he grows up and is sort of forced to adhere to this masculine image of the world after that, and gets away from that really innocent, free moment of sort of creativity and just joy in his life. And then Pound Cake kind of comes back at the end of the book, and it's this really beautiful thematic moment. And I really appreciated that about this book. They also talked about that in the interview that Joel and Erica from The Broken Spine did with Daniel Black. I'll put another link to that in the description box down below since I just brought it up. But it just really reminded me of that book because Black Cake is used in a lot of really interesting ways in this book. It is a celebration cake. I was really unfamiliar with it. Basically, I believe it's a spin on English pudding. And it is kind of like a Caribbean fruitcake where the dried fruits are soaked in rum. It's used as a celebration cake. It comes out at weddings. I believe it comes out at funerals as well. Birthdays, things like that. And the family that forms the core of this book is no exception. It's sort of like a tie to their past because they don't live in the Caribbean. They now live in the United States. The premise of the book is that a mother dies and her children, Benny and Byron, come together before her funeral. The lawyer who is settling her estate has a recording that the mother taped, which she wants to talk to her children one last time. And in this recording, she reveals family secrets about her life, who she is, where she came from, how she came to be in the United States, where she was. And one of the early secrets, which is not a spoiler, it happens right at the beginning of the book, is that they have a sister that they didn't know anything about. Byron and Benny are estranged from each other. Benny in particular has been estranged from the family. She did not attend her father's funeral when he died. And there's a lot of tension between the two siblings that comes from that estrangement. Byron blames Benita for a lot of different things and blames her for not having been around. He blames her for the estrangement between the two of them, but she also blames him. And a lot of that has to do with Benny's sexuality. I don't think that's a spoiler. Again, that's something that comes up really early in the book. She dates women, she dates men. She doesn't specifically identify herself as bisexual, but it seems to be the way she is, the way she lives her life. And her family really struggles to come to terms with that. And that is what causes her to spend a lot of time away from the family. So you can see right there, it's a book that is about generational trauma in some ways. And oh my God, I'm always interested in that. And it's a book about complicated family dynamics. And oh my God, I'm interested in that as well. It also hits really closely to me on a very personal level because I live in a different state from my family. And I try to stay in touch with my family and my siblings, but it's difficult, especially this day and age. It's really easy to just rely on text messaging. And because we're all busy in our lives, it can be really difficult to communicate in deep and meaningful ways because it's hard to do that over text. And some of the conversation between Benny and Byron really hit close to home for me. And it's going to be interesting to see how this story develops as it goes along. But I'm really, really liking it a lot so far. I don't think it's going to crack into my top 3 or 4 favorite books of the year, but it's up there. It's looking like it's going to be hovering in the top 5, at least for the beginning of the year. It'll be interesting to see where everything lands once the year ends, because there's still a lot of time for a lot of different books to creep in there, but I'm really liking this book a lot. And I definitely would recommend checking out the article from, I think it's Elle magazine, where Charmaine Wilkerson talks about Black Cake and a lot of the deeper meanings behind it, because this is a really complicated recipe as well, because it is a sort of Caribbean recipe, but it's inspired by something English. So it has ties to this really unsavory colonial past. And there are so many different levels on which this works. It reminds me a lot of Violets by Kyung-sook Shin, which I had finished in my last Friday Reads video. And I talked about that in the same Friday Reads video that I'm linking down below. So check that out, because the title Violets obviously cues you to pay attention to that every single time it comes up. And it works on so many levels, because the ways violets are used, it brings up mythology and of violets and how that ties to women being abused and subjugated by men It also ties to dictionary definitions, and the words that are around violence in the dictionary, including violate and violence, become important as well. It's the same basic principle. Black Cake ties to a lot of different areas in this book. It's sort of like a tree, and then Black Cake is the roots. It just spreads out into a lot of different areas and gives you a lot to think about as a reader. And I've really been enjoying this book, and I can't wait to finish it and see what happens in the last 40% of this book. The downside is that because I've been spending time with Black Cake, I made some progress in the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois over the weekend. Not as much as I would have liked. And now I really need to catch up on it, because between the headaches, I wasn't really able to focus on this book every time I picked it up. And because it's such a big, heavy book, when I get into bed at the end of the day, it just feels awkward when you're sandwiched between the two dogs and you have like this much space and you're trying to read this big, heavy book. Also with a headache, it doesn't really work. It's much easier to just listen to an audiobook and go with that. So it's funny. I feel like I'm on this journey with the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois where it's just taking me forever to read it this year. I started the audio in January. It was taking me a really long time to get through. So I put the audiobook down, got this from the library, and now it's taking me a really long time to get through the book. And that's not a reflection on the book. It really isn't. It's just bad luck, I think. And I'm really enjoying the book, continuing to enjoy it. For some reason, I feel like I'm getting more out of the book reading it in print than I was listening to it on audio. I feel like I've noticed the rhythm of Honorée Fannone Jeffers' writing much better on the page than I was in audio, which is funny because you would think that someone reading the book to you would make that sort of rhythm come out in all of its glory, and yet I'm having a much better time with the page. So I am going to continue to work on this week, and hopefully I am going to be able to make a big push on this book this weekend. We don't have any plans this weekend, and it's snowing where I live. It's been snowing all week, which is not great. It's freezing. Another reason I'm wearing this heavy flannel right now. So hopefully that means that we'll be spending some time at home and I will be able to make some progress on Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, because I need to make a good chunk of progress before this is due back at the library, which I believe is at the end of next week. So this is where my push is going starting tomorrow, and hopefully I will have a lot more to talk to you about with this book when I talk to you again in my next Friday Reads video. I'll have videos in between then and now, but when I actually recap my week in reading, hopefully there will be a lot more to talk about with this book. And then what else is coming up? So once I finish Black Cake, I have not decided what my next audio book is going to be, but I really want to make a switch and focus on print because I want to finish Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. Once I have that done, I'm going to pivot to the LGBTQ in translation read along and focus on Before Night Falls by Ronaldo Arenas, translated by Dolores M. Koch. And then I have some things on NetGalley that I would like to read before those books are published. So I have an idea of where I want to go in terms of like print books. I'm going to call them print books, even though Love Songs and Before Night Falls are in print. The NetGalley stuff is all eGalley. So that's where I'm thinking of that. I haven't decided what my next audiobook is going to be because I really want to make sure I put an emphasis on getting those things done. So we'll see what my next audiobook ends up being. I'm thinking it's probably going to be something that's not going to require a whole lot of attention and thought and care, and I don't want it to be something from Libby that I'm going to have a short time frame to listen to it in. So it's going to be something that's not going to be a project, something that's not going to require a lot of immediate attention, and something that will hopefully be light and easy so I can focus on all of that. Hopefully it's going to be a quiet weekend and I'll be able to get a good jump start on a lot of that. We'll see how it goes. As I said, we don't really have any plans, and I think that covers everything for this Friday Reads video. We're done. So I will leave it at that. I'd love to hear what you've been reading, what you've been watching. If you are as obsessed as I am with the Great Pottery Throwdown, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to talk about it. And no spoilers, because as I said, I have only done the first episode at this point. Great show. Love it. But let me know what you've been reading, what you've been watching, what you've been loving, what you've been hating, all of that, put it in the comment section down below. And as always, I really appreciate your time. I have been having a really good run of videos and comments, and it just really emphasizes for me that I really love the community of people here on BookTube. And I really appreciate all of the time and effort that I spend here and what you give me back. And just thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.